Hi.
Hi, Shashank.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Yeah. How are you doing?
All good, all good.
Been a while.
Yes.
Okay, so you're
How
in
are
Delhi.
things? Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, Delhi only, Noida to be precise.
Okay, great. So just
I think Aditya is also on a patch in now. We were not sure, so we had actually logged in the Google Meet link. So we both were
okay.
there and we did not see anybody from Emiza.
Ah,
So we are wondering where you are.
no, we're all on the Zoom link because on Google you can't record, right? There's a lot of limitations over there.
Oh, acha, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're going to be recording this, and then this will be.
But Google also allows you to record, right? Or there is some other
There is
limitation?
some, there is some. I mean, I've never been able to do it, right? So
Acha. Okay.
this is a much better platform. So we thought we'd use this only. Let me see if Aditya has joined. One second, participants. We're already up to 30 participants. 1 second. Just give me a second.
Yeah, sure.
Hi guys,
Aditya, good afternoon.
good afternoon.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well here. How are you guys?
All good, all good, all good. So it's been a while. So good to see you. Good to catch up with you.
Likewise.
So I think we can go ahead and get started. We've got Shashank also here with us. So I'll just quickly introduce you and then hand it over to each of you to do a more detailed detailed introduction. We've already got a fair number of participants. We've already got more than 30 people on the call, and we are going to be recording this session. And this will be then available on our YouTube channel as well for you to share with your friends and family as well.
All right.
So great. So firstly, wanted to thank you both for taking out the time to come to our first session of Supply Chain Titans. So this is our premier launch webinar. So thank you both for joining. So I'll just do a quick introduction. So I am Ajay, founder of Emiza. We are a supply chain enabler for consumer brands, and delighted to be hosting both you, Shashank, and Aditya. So I'll just quickly do that. So Aditya is the co-founder of the Sold Store. Started this company more than 10 years ago. Some interesting things that I found out about Aditya is that you do painting. You love to do painting. You also play a lot of musical instruments. Uh, so I found that about you, and that was very interesting. And I guess you guys raised your Series C also fairly recently. So congratulations on that.
You.
And Shashank is the founder of both Zakupi and the Rust Orange, which is into ethnic fashion. They have been an old and loyal customer of Emiza for many years. And I think Shashank, you come from a finance background into fashion, right?
Correct. Not exactly finance, but mostly in management consulting.
Management consulting, yeah. So it would be great if both of you can do a little bit of an introduction about yourselves and a little bit about the journey, right? What because you all are both the founders of your respective companies. So what prompted you all to? What was the idea that prompted you all to start it? Why the name? What was the inspiration? Would love to hear a little bit before we sort of delve into the topic.
Sure, I think Shashank, do you want to start?
I think I have some video issue. Are you able to see me?
No.
You are frozen actually. Yeah, moment. If you want,
For
you can
some
drop.
reason, I don't know. But you can hear me, right?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
audible. Yeah.
Okay. So should I start or should I rejoin?
I think you can rejoin in the meanwhile. Aditya, you can go ahead and start. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
no
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
Yeah, so we, as you said, right, like we started the company in 2013, and we were all engineers actually, and four of us basically met at our we took up a finance job after engineering. We thought that that's definitely one area where we need to focus on before we decide to ever start something of our own. So I remember 1.5 years into the company, into that job, we were sitting in the office canteen eating sipuri, and we came up with this idea. So the idea stemmed from the fact that there was nothing available in India. If you wanted to get, let's say, Harry Potter merchandise or Batman merchandise, it was impossible to get the official licensed products. So you would either ask some relative who was coming down from the US to get it for you, or probably when you're taking a trip or something like that, right? So that gap was there, which we identified, and we were all consuming content at that point. If Netflix wasn't there, so I remember we were downloading stuff online and watching stuff, watching Friends and Big
Right.
Bang Theory and things like that.
There's
So
Napster
that's
also.
yeah, exactly, right. So that's where it stems from, that interest and that passion, right?
Right.
Where it seemed very relatable, and I feel like very few startups actually have that privilege, but we were our own audience. So that really helps. When you are your own customer, right, you sort of understand the EG much better.
Right.
Because in the initial years, there's barely any data to work with. You don't know
Right.
what works. You don't know what people want.
Right.
It was whatever we sort of thought would look good on us or what we wanted to buy ourselves. We just ended up making those designs and launching. So that's how it all started. We started off with just t-shirts on our website, and now we're much more than that. Actually, we do apparels mostly, and some accessories like shoes and perfumes across three genders, across three categories. Sorry, men, women, and kids. Um, and we started only with our website, but currently we have three different modes of selling. We have our D2C platform. We also sell on marketplaces like Amazon, Flipkart, and Myntra. And we also ventured into retail a few years back. So we've got about 15 stores right now, and the aim is to open about 100 in the next 3 years. And at the source, so I primarily look at the ops part, apart from tech and sourcing and a few other things like that.
That's amazing. I think the name, how did you come up with the name The Soul Store? I mean, that name is something which is very
Yeah.
unique.
Right. So the name actually is a pun. So we were really passionate, right? When you start, you're basically really passionate about what you're doing, and so the soul, we really wanted the word soul in the name, and
Right.
so the name is SOULED, which is also a pun on SOLD. So it's a very good problem to have, right? To be sold out.
Exactly.
Right. So the aim was to basically have that fun, and it felt funny, and it also was from the heart, which is exactly what the intent of the brand was. And so that we gave that name, and now if a product gets sold out on a website, right, we don't write SOLD, we write SOULED.
Very nice.
So so that's our touch there. Yes.
Super to hear this story, Aditya. I think Shashank, are you back on?
I am back on. Unfortunately, there is some issue with the video. I've just not, I'm not able to go live with the video.
No worries. So you can maybe if you can now just give your introduction and talk a little bit about Rustorange and Zakupi and the thought behind the whole thing.
Yeah, sure. Let me start right off. So Rustorange is actually the second iteration of Zakupi. I would not even say iteration is a complete pivot. We had started a fashion discovery platform way back in 2015. This was basically to help people explore offline fashion, something on the lines of what Zomato used to be that time. You could check out what store is selling, what inventory, what kind of products are available, what price points are there, etc., etc. But while doing that, and that was basically a discovery platform. But while doing that, we figured out that this is not a scalable model unless you find a monetization to whatever you're trying to do. But because we were in the market, we were listing all these small fashion stores across. We were in touch with a lot of these boutiques. These NIFT graduates who pass out, they try to open their small stores in Delhi, like Hoskas, Shahpur. They are full of these stores. So we felt that there was a need of all these unique creative designs, and to give them a platform where they could do a mass, they could reach out to the mass market. They were not able to do it because they were very small. They were sourcing very small. Uh, Obviously, their cost and overheads were very very high, and therefore their prices were extremely high for a common person. So we thought of disrupting that. We started partnering with all these young graduates. We started doing their entire sampling, production, sourcing, etc. And that's how initially Zakupi Collections was launched, which was basically under Zakupi. We had launched Zakupi Collections. When it started scaling up, we felt that this is a much bigger opportunity where we can go in, where we get these unique designs which are otherwise not available in your regular mass market stores like WB or these are very household names,
Right.
but these are big brands. So you don't find risk taking appetite with their designs, with their launches, because obviously they have to sell in inventory. They can't have a dead inventory at the end of the season. So they
Right.
don't do too much experimentation. And this is exactly where we started. That let us experiment. Let us make ethnic fashion also very experimental. How
Right.
can we bring in Western silhouettes, Western prints into Indian styles?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we started, and I think over the years we've really figured out what exactly is the customer looking at in terms of the category. We are currently doing dresses, we are doing coordinate sets, we are doing regular SKDs, we are doing saris. We will be launching some new product categories like jutis and jewelry in the next couple of months before the festive season.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, so we once we have figured out exactly what the customer wants, which is unique styles at great velocity, we are just replicating that across various, uh, you know, uh, what do you call product categories.
Product categories. Amazing. So I think so that to sort of set a little context, now that we've got the introductions done, to set a little context to the session, right? The whole idea is about the topic of inventory obsolescence, right? I think that is a major pain area for the fashion industry, and that is sort of the key determinant factor in terms of the level of profitability a company can achieve, right? In terms of what they are selling through versus what they're not able to sell through and the loss thereafter, right? So the objective and as what I would like the audience to sort of maybe take away from this entire session is to understand, how big of a problem is this? How are you as companies dealing with this kind of with this problem? What are some of the strategies you all are employing, and maybe certain metrics or certain sort of indicating point, so sort of certain numbers you can give so companies know that okay, I need to be within this range. So the idea is to sort of help our audience understand how to deal with this problem and what is the magnitude of the problem and how do they turn this problem into a profitable opportunity, right? So that's kind of the context of today's webinar. So when we talk about inventory obsolescence, right, just to set the context, why do you have inventory sort of becoming obsolete, right? It's primarily where what does not sell through. So the initial problem starts with how do you forecast and how do you predict, right? So if you predict right, if your demand forecasting and all of that is perfect, then you're able to obviously achieve a much greater sell through and much less obsolescence. So let's talk a little bit about that. Maybe if each of you can talk about your own organizations in terms of how big of a problem is this today, and how are you all tackling this first from now? Let's talk from a demand and procurement point of view first. Aditya, if you want to go first, yeah.
Sure. So I think there are back when we started, right? I remember investors would always tell us that there's no barrier to entry in the industry.
Right.
Anyone could sit at home and like start a apparel business, and in a sense, it's true. I think the problem is not the idea. I mean, the idea is very straightforward. Anyone can think of it, but the challenge lies in the execution, right? And one of the major reasons why brands like us or smaller than us or larger than us have actually shut down in the past is because they couldn't manage inventory.
Right.
So that awareness is definitely there, and whenever there's a new design or a new category that we launch, there are two three things that we take care of. So let's say that I'm launching a denim. Now it's a new category for us. I don't exactly know what the consumer wants, but I have definitely done an industry analysis, seeing what my competitors are selling, the price points and things like that, right? It's not going to be an easy job because the
Right.
denim is for 4,000. So what we do is there are two, three reasons why a customer actually ends up buying the product. One is the quality of the product, the way it looks. Um, the second is basically the pricing,
Right.
right? And the third is basically the eventually after they use it, etc. Do they come back?
Mhm.
So at any point, right, we don't want to keep more than one unknown. Because let's say if my product is very experimental, and the pricing is also high, then I don't know why the consumer is not buying. Is it because of the design or is it because of the price? So
Right.
we always try and keep that one area. Yeah, so try and keep two things constant, so that there's only one unknown. So let's say if the price is low and it's still not be selling, right? I know that the consumer is not buying because of the design, not because of
Aditya, I think you've frozen.
the price.
Aditya, I think we've lost you for a minute.
Hello.
Yeah. Sorry, Aditya. I think your screen is frozen. I think we lost you for a minute.
Right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. You're audible now.
At my yeah, I'm next up now. Right. So I was saying that I think one of the things that we do is basically
So you talked about the two things, right?
the
Keeping the two variables, the
one
price
price.
and the other one. Yeah.
Correct. So we try and keep the price basically at par or like below competition in the start,
Right.
to understand what the consumer wants. So the
Right.
initial phase of a product actually is just understanding the market.
Mhm.
We're not looking to actually come and like just disrupt the market on day one. I think that awareness is there. There is going to be a different set of learning for each category, and
Right.
we're more than happy to learn from it. The second thing that we do is order very limited stock. Let's say I might be very bullish about a particular product, and I might really be maybe the stats are also pointing, etc. But the aim is to be safe. I would
Right.
rather lose out on opportunity than have dead stock.
Mm.
So these are the two things that we take care of. However bullish we are on the design, we will rather be sold out than actually be overstocked.
But that's a little bit of a fine line to walk, right? Because if you're sold out, there's a loss of sale. So ultimately, for you to make that economic choice, are you actually tracking what is that loss of sale? I would have got, let's say I ordered 1,000 units, and all 1,000 got sold out, but I could have sold 2,000, right? So
Correct.
do you know what that number is? How much you're losing out on a particular style or SKU by not having adequate inventory?
Right. So I think the simple math that we do is that, let's say if I know how many days of inventory I have,
Right.
and when the product gets sold out, I know the per day sales. So for the number of days where the inventory is sold out, actually I can just say that this was the loss in sales, right?
Hmm.
Now this is a factor of multiple things, which is how efficient you are with the ordering, with the sourcing, etc. But as I said, right, I think if the pipeline is large enough, like if the experimental categories are large enough for you to for your sales to your targets to not your revenue targets to not drop, then I think this problem
Right.
actually is not really that big. Because let's say if I want to sell 100 denims, right, tomorrow,
Right.
then I should have launched those 100 denims at least like say 3 or 6 months in advance to have enough data to know that I
Hmm.
need to order X amount of denims. So I think if your planning is strong and if you can actually just make sure that there is enough, if the internal processes and systems are strong, then I think this should be fine. But there's one thing which is absolutely not in your control is dead stock. That's something that you can't control, because if you try to sell dead stock, then you either spend a lot on marketing, and the unit economics don't make sense, the returns are higher, or you will discount the product. So the repercussions of that basically over time is just much worse than losing out on those sales.
But is there a metric, like, I mean, like in terms of dead stock, right? So typically they say in fashion, almost 20 to 30% of inventory typically becomes obsolete, right?
Right.
So what is that number that maybe y'all are operating at, if you can share that, if that's possible, and what is that target level that you sort of, want to get at?
Correct. So, see, ideally in the industry, right, depending on the category, but it's more or less inventory which is older than 90 to 120 days. So let's say that if I'm holding inventory which is older than 4 months, then you either figure out what's wrong with the category and sort of rework it. Maybe let's say it's the way you're selling the product. Maybe it's
Hmm.
the mock-up on the website or something like that. So we start working on that. So the aim is that the DOI, which is the days of inventory of a particular product, which is effectively the inventory and the sales, right? So if I have 100 stock and then I sell one a day, that's 100 days of inventory. So I need to make sure that I don't exceed the 120 days of inventory mark. That's the metric that we sort of look at. And if it does, then we either, as I said, we either find out if there's something wrong in the way we are selling the product,
Right.
Or we then basically discount the category. Now, this is where the problem starts, right? So this number, ideally, we want to maintain under 15%. That's a very healthy metric if we can actually manage that. So this is the target for the current inventory that we have.
So 15%, which means out of your total inventory, not more than 15% should have an aggregate life of 120 days, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes, you're right. And the total inventory that we want to maintain for the business is under 75 days.
Total, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are sort of the three goalposts. So total inventory 75 days. Your inventory greater than 120 days should not be more than 15%.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Right.
Great. That's excellent. And Shashank, what about if you can maybe shine a little light about what you guys are doing at Rustorange and how are you looking at this problem? You're on mute, Shashank. Shashank, you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry. I think we also have pretty much the same playbook. In fact, some of the numbers which Aditya was mentioning, I could completely relate to. 75 days is also a number which we target at.
Right.
We don't want to keep more than 75 days worth of total inventory.
Right.
I think a few things which are different in our case is that because we are in such a category, there are cycles. So there may be some products in our inventory which have even a 360-day inventory period, and that's a conscious call we keep. For example, we have winter months, and some of those products which we launch during winter months,
right.
We might choose to hold on to those products rather than to make them again if we feel they will have the same selling potential next year as well. Similarly, then you have festive periods. For example, if a particular collection is going to be launched now, which is going to be the festive season, if we again find that certain products have the potential to be sellable, let's say in 6 months down the line, when the next festive cycle around the Holi also hits, we choose to hold on to those products. We don't even attempt of any liquidation. We just have to calculate whether we can hold that inventory or not. I think. But the biggest advantage which we have is at the first stage itself, which is planning.
Right.
We started as a digital brand. We are still a digital brand. We have recently only launched our offline sales. So we're very, very new there. But the advantage of being a digital brand is that we are able to get the initial numbers, which help us in better forecasting. Also, we are well equipped in the supply chains. We have complete control over who is manufacturing what in what quantities, and every design which we do is also ours. So we are also not technically sourcing from anybody. We are not reliant on anybody else for our inventory. So when we launch our products, we don't do a very big launch. We have a very strong community on Instagram, on Facebook, on our own website, where we tease them with our new launches. And we get that information, we get data, right? And because we've been doing this for the last 4-5 years, we have enough past data to tell us how much we need to produce for a particular style. Secondly, what we do is we don't produce for the entire season. We don't go there and say that we will produce for the entire 6 months. Because we have control on the cycle, on the production chain, we have multiple production cycles. We keep producing them in smaller quantities rather than going in one big batch initially. So that helps us in de-risking dead stock at the end of the season or at the end of the cycle. Again, I think overall we look at 90 days as something a particular style can be in stock. The quantity can be in stock. Beyond 90 days, we have to take a call whether this is a sellable inventory, which is maybe due to some cycle it is not selling right now. And in case if it is not there, then we initially do a benchmark discounting, which is we take a call that this much discount we can offer or this much less than target price we can afford, and we try to push the inventory in that mode. Even if that is not left, which is about another 7-8%, then we have other offline channels through which we try to liquidate that.
Got it. So in terms of an overall number, you said one is 90 days is kind of your threshold in terms of overall days.
Yes. So production batches, we normally do a 60-day production batch. Let's say, a dress is something which we have recently launched. We forecast how much it's going to sell for the next 60 days. We don't do an entire season, which is of maybe 4-5 months, because the forecast is going to go for a toss if you forecast for a longer period of time. So we don't forecast for a very long time. We forecast for 60 days with a cushion of 30 days, so 90 days. Beyond 90 days, we start taking action, whether it's minor discounting. We build that also in the pricing. So, when we launch a particular product, we build 10 to 15% cushion in the pricing, so that in case we have to liquidate it, we have the cushion there.
Oh, very interesting. One point that you brought up, which was sort of really stuck to me, is that you said that you do your production run for a season in multiple batches.
Yes.
We work with a lot of fashion brands, and typically the modus operandi in fashion is that in the beginning of the season they send the entire lot, right? So there's mass inverting happening, and then after that there's no inverts, and then you just so why do a lot of brands do that? I mean, what you're saying makes a lot more sense, right? You can break your production runs. Is it something to do with the MOQ, or what is the reason why a brand would not adopt what you're saying of breaking the batches out, right, across the season?
I think, when you say of these brands, these are primarily, national brands, which are fairly big. There are 1,200 crores, 1,500 crore brands, right? And they have to plan in advance because all that inventory has to go maybe at 1,000 distribution points. So they can't do smaller batch runs. In our case, we are fortunate. We are D2C first brand. We are digital first brand, right? So we don't have the compulsion of a MOQ because we don't have to set it to some 1,000 stores initially. So that's one advantage. Maybe when our size starts becoming bigger, that challenge is going to come to us as well. We'll figure out a solution at that time. But at the moment, that's the advantage of being digital. And that's the advantage of being smaller.
Right.
And secondly, what also happens is that unless you have a strong control on the production, you can't do smaller production runs. Right. 3-4 years back, we used to do our own production as well. But now our size has become bigger, so we have full control on 5-6 suppliers in Noida who do the production for us. But it's completely controlled by Rustorange. It is not that they are producing for somebody else. So we have full control on that production, and that's why we can do smaller runs versus one bigger run.
So in the whole concept of fashion, right, I think there is a whole concept of economic order quantity, right, EOQ. And in that, the three sort of main variables is your demand for the year, right? Second is your cost per unit, and third is your carrying cost. So if you could also help the audience, and this is a question I'll first, maybe Shashank, you can take it, and then Aditya. How do you determine, or how do you calculate carrying cost of inventory, right? What is it? What is the formula, or what is the logic that you apply to arrive at carrying cost of inventory?
I think for us, it's basically, it has two parts. One is the inventory storage cost, right? Wherever we are going to store it, it's going to have a value because we are not storing it at our facility. It is going to a third party, which is Emiza. Right. So that's the first cost. Second is, very simply put, what is the interest cost of holding that inventory? If that money was to be freed to me, I can use that to build some other inventory, right? But now to build that other inventory, I have to raise capital, whether it is through debt or whether it is through equity, right? So I have to raise that capital. So whatever is the cost of that capital, these are the two costs which we have to factor in. So when we are planning to store inventory for, let's say, next season, these are the two costs we factor in. That these holding costs plus a fresh manufacturing cost. Does that make economic sense?
Do you use any sort of statistical models, or is this done scientifically, or how do you do this?
The future manufacturing cost.
Sorry, Shashank, I lost you for a second. I said, do you do this calculation at a SKU level, or maybe you should shine a little bit of light on terms of how do you do this calculation? Right? Do you do it
it's mostly done
for every product, or how do you do it?
No, so we don't do it on every product. It is mostly in a group of products. So, for example, let's say if I was to do that, and which is something which we did last year. There were certain winter styles which we are very confident of selling this year. So we took a conscious call on that group of products. That these are the 2,000 pieces which we would want to hold on because they have a selling potential. They will immediately start selling once the winter season hits. So we will not be in a rush to produce fresh inventory when November comes. Got it. So individually we don't do, but on a group level we do.
Group level, Aditya, how do you all look at the concept of EOQ and the carrying cost within SouledStore?
It's actually, I mean, exactly what you said, right? The cost of carrying the inventory, which is, let's say, in the warehouse, I feel like that's the small cost, that it's a sunken cost, but it's something that we don't actually give a lot of stress to. I think what we give a lot of importance to is basically the cost of capital, right? it's, let's say that if I take that money and I deploy it elsewhere, or let's say if I sell this product at a discount, this SKU at a discount, and I make something else, I can make a lot more money with that. So I think effectively it's about managing cash. And our aim obviously is to make sure that we don't need to keep infusing capital to grow. That's ideal for any business, right? Like if you can just generate enough profit to run the business. So I think the cost of capital is what we look at. So as I said, the metric that we've arrived to is basically 120 days after doing the math. And beyond this, because in some cases, let's say you need to, if the product doesn't sell, you need time to make your attempts better to sell that product, right? So that's the reason why it's 120. And after that, if it still doesn't sell, then you know for a fact that there is definitely an issue. Ideally, it starts off with a lower discount. If you still, or depends on the number of products that you have in stock, the DOI basically. If the DOI is not way above 120, then you basically keep the discount very minimal. Or and then again, like if the product is not selling, then you discount it heavily. But as you must have seen, right, we're not into that business. Like we barely discount any categories. We do believe that as I said, we order less, so the problem is not as such a very big problem for us. But a very real scenario is when you order seasonal products. Most of the products that we do basically are evergreen, like you do t-shirts and things like that. But during winter, we order jackets and things like that, which is exactly what Shashank said, right? So we did take this call last year to carry some inventory this year, because apart from the cost of carrying it, right, there's also like a larger brand call that you need to take, where the brand should look like a brand that's been into discounting, because that's a very different proposition. It's a very parallel argument, but it does break the story of the brand when you're trying to build it up. So we did take this call to carry forward some inventory this year, and we're very confident that it'll be sold out in this season. So yes.
So within fashion, there are two challenges. One is obviously the style and design, right? Which is one thing. Second is the sizes. What is a bigger problem for you all? Is the inventory obsolescence more of an issue of going wrong on style, or more on the sizes?
So I think the problem of sizes is more important, because the problem of sizes comes on your bestsellers. These are the products which you are selling the most, right? The problem of obsolescence actually comes on your almost discarded pieces or discarded styles which you want to get rid of. So I think in our case, when we look at inventory, we are very, very particular. I mean, we still don't have a perfect solution for it, but because of our smaller production cycles, we are able to manage that. But cut sizes, is a very big problem, and addressing that is more important than obsolescence.
So on sizes, how does one get better in terms of sizes, right? How do you manage the sizes better? What are some of the tricks over there?
So, I mean, again, this is a trick which we use internally, that, when we launch a particular style, again, we have historical data. So, for example, if let's say I'm launching a A-line dress, which is similar to some of the other dresses which we have sold in the past. So I know what size ratios it has sold. Now, the new style may have sold 0 piece so far, but the other pieces may have sold 10,000. So I have certain benchmarks available with me when we go into the first ever production batch. When that batch happens and we get even product level data for the size mix, we try to incorporate that into the subsequent production cycles. Even after that, you will still end up in a situation where, let's say, out of all 6 sizes, you have 5 available, 1 is out of stock. So we try to, now we are building, a process to even take care of that in advance.
Got it. So Aditya, before you take this question, I want to bring a slightly different dimension to your answer. You've already gone into retail. Now you've got 15 stores, right? Now, moment you go into retail and your inventory is in 15 stores, you can have situations where you have the size available, but it's not in the right store, right? So I would like to understand specifically your issue, how you are addressing this issue from a retail point of view, right? And how often does this happen, that you have the size, but it's not in the right store?
Correct. So there are a few things that we do here. One is that the inventory churn that we do at the store, right? So every week, or let's say 10 days, we basically send out new inventory and take out some inventory that's not selling as well.
Right.
So this is the first thing that we do to ensure that we don't get sold out very often.
Right.
The second is, if you're a customer and you want something that's available, the store definitely pushes you to order. And then we basically, like, the store will order for you and then we'll deliver it to your house, to your address. That's the other thing, right? And the third thing is that this is not done at the moment, but this is something that we build out internally using tech, like a truly omni-channel platform where even the store, right, it effectively acts like a dark warehouse.
Got it.
So the aim is that, yeah, because what happens is that, let's say, all the inventory that you have at the stores, effectively it becomes unusable for any other platform except that store.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
So the idea is to improve the efficiency there as well. So and there are a lot of downtimes for the store. Let's say if you're sitting at except the peak hours, right? The store movement is very slow.
Right.
So we can use that to pack orders. As you said, like it solves a larger problem, which is more online. Like, for example, if you order, let's say, sitting in Bandra,
Right.
we'll check for inventory in the nearest store, and then eventually, like, all the other locations in Bombay, before we then move that order to a different location, let's say in Delhi or Haryana or somewhere else. So the aim is to improve customer experience and give you the product as fast as possible. So this is something that we built in terms of tech, but operationally we haven't started this yet.
Got it. No, but very interesting, because I think that's the whole omni-channel piece is a great way to solve for this, right? And if people have like yourselves, and I think Shashank, you're also now getting into the offline part. I think leveraging inventory of stores is a brilliant way to actually solve for a lot of these issues, right? So of not having the right product at the right place at the right time. So excellent. Now, one more point now is now when the goods actually come back, right? And then I just want one last question, and then we can open it up for any questions. So when goods are coming back into the warehouse, now these are the returns. Like in your case, Aditya, it'll be from stores and of course also from marketplace or from your website. And Shashank, for you, how do you look at those returns in terms of how, is there? I've read a study where a certain statistic was published saying that if an item was returned more than once, or was it twice back in, then the probability of that getting returned the third time is significantly higher. I don't know whether you all are experiencing this also in your own businesses, and if so, what are you all doing to address or mitigate this?
Okay. Aditya, you want to take this first?
Sure. So we don't track the returns on an individual SKU level. Like, we do it on a category level. So let's say if I know that this particular size in this category has an issue, then we try and figure out what the problem is, and then it goes into QC again and things like that. So we haven't gone into the stage of checking each and every SKU when it's returned. So what we ideally do is, I mean, you obviously have basic QC and all. So since you manage our warehouse, you basically know that, right? So when the return comes, then we check the product again to see if there are mistakes. So the aim here is to absorb that cost and take that hit, rather than having a bad customer experience or an angry customer who won't repeat. So every single product that comes into our inventory is actually firstly 100% checked. And in case there's a problem after, then that product is checked again, and then there's a bad bin concept that we have where we put the inventory. So this is not yet as optimized as I would like it to be, but this is what we do for now, and and then it's taken up. We take it up with the vendor and things like that. So this is a very straightforward process that we have at the moment.
Got it. Interesting.
I think in our case also, so for example, we don't do we do SKU wise analysis, but we don't do individual piece wise analysis. Right. For example, if let's say a particular dress has been launched, and we do a weekly check on the return percentages of new launches, right? So the moment we start seeing that the percentage return of a particular piece is going up, right, then we immediately take a call because it's women's wear category, there are no standard sizes. A-line dress will fit different than a flared dress, than a straight dress, right? So multiple iterations there. So we try to assess the genuineness of a did not fit properly query, right? Because that's a very generic answer you get when somebody's returning a product. Did not fit. What did not fit because of it was too tight, too loose. There are multiple things. So we try to make calls in those such products. We speak to those customers to exactly figure out what happened. In case it's a production issue, the entire batch is called back. We do the rectifications. In case it is not a production issue, just that the style is such where most of the people are not able to get the perfect fit, then we discontinue it. So whatever available is there, we sell it off. But then we don't do a new batch production. And I think also what happens is that, and you would know that every piece which a customer returns is actually brought back to our factory, and where every piece is inspected, irrespective of whether the customer just said it did not fit, we still do a quality check on the product just to see. She may be saying did not fit, but actually there's a problem with the product.
Right.
So we do that individual check for every return piece which we receive.
Got it. No, I think it's excellent. And in terms of, see, what's going to happen is that as you scale, right, then the processes that work at a point of time may not necessarily work in the future, right? Because at a 10x scale, at a 5x scale, things change. So the question again to both of you is, like Emiza being a partner to both your companies, what are some of the things that you would want to see from a fulfillment partner or a 3PL? What are some of the things you think we could do, or someone like us could do, to help you in this journey of yours, right, in terms of inventory obsolescence?
I think one is obviously in terms of storage cost. For example, let's say, winter is something which I also spoke about, and I think Aditya also spoke about, right? So now winter styles are not going to be sold during the summer months. We have to park that inventory somewhere. Currently, we are using the same location for storing that inventory. We are not using a more less inexpensive location for that storage. So that could be one thing which we can take advantage of, if you can offer us some less expensive storage for our longer haul products. That's one. Second, I think more than obsolescence also is on the turnaround time. At any given point in time, about 7 to 8% of my inventory is not sellable, because every piece which we receive back from our customer has to be checked.
Right.
And we can't do the movement from our warehouse to our factory every day. They come in batches. So for this 8, 9, 10 days, when the bad pieces are getting accumulated at the warehouse, and when they come here also and they are undergoing inspection, so those 20, 21 days is a time when a return product takes to get back in the inventory.
Right.
So if we can save on that duration also, that will help us increase our inventory availability from maybe just 7% down to maybe 2-3% down.
Got it. So that would require maybe then building some of those QC capabilities or refurbishment capabilities maybe at the warehouse itself. Right?
Yeah. And I'm sure because it's unique for fashion brands, you don't need that for other categories like food or personal
That's
care,
something we're
etc.
actually doing. But actually now there are quite a few fashion brands who have come on board. So we're actually now building an entire refurbishment set of capabilities, QC and refurbishment capabilities for fashion specifically, because that is coming out as a big need from a lot of clients. So that's a absolutely right observation there by you. Aditya, from your side, what is your view on this? Anything that...
Yeah, I think I agree with Shashank. For me, the problem statement has been the deeper integration with the 3PL provider, right? So, yes, the shipping of the storage, the shipping, etc., is one part of it. But there's that other 10-15% extra where the brand tries to differentiate, right? So, maybe there's a new pamphlet or a flyer that you want to put. We just finished 10 years.
Sorry, Aditya, the line is a little spotty one second.
Putting this small... sorry.
Yeah, you're audible now. You can just repeat that if you don't.
Right. So what I was saying was that we just finished 10 years, and during that time we basically started giving out some thank you notes and a couple of a small card about the journey of the brand to customers. So these kind of things basically where the brand tries to differentiate from any other massy marketplace kind of brand, right? And a deeper integration into understanding how a QC is done for a particular category that we do, understanding the brand's requirements. So I think for me that's been the sort of issue or the problem to solve for, because yes, you'll be able to manage everything else, but I think this is where the differentiation happens, and this is where the consumer delight also is. So if we can focus on that part, I think that'd be perfect.
Super. So I think with that, we've run out of time on the discussion. I would like to open up, if anyone has any questions, we can spend about 5-6 minutes taking some questions.
I have a question. My name is Rashmi and I'm from Hyderabad. So I work for a fashion brand, and we have around 85 stores across Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So one major problem that we are facing right now is, let's say we have a hero product that is doing well in 5 stores, but this product is not doing that great in other stores. Now, identifying these products at the right time and doing the stock transfer from the stores in which it's not performing that well to the stores which it is performing well has been like kind of an issue, and we are losing out on sales for that. So is there a way we can tackle this, so that we don't lose out on that time, because that's on fire in a few stores and it's just not doing well in the others?
Yeah. So, I think the problem, the solution is to basically just have better tech, I would say. Both of us, right, as Shashank also mentioned, we're at D2C first. More than like 65-70% of our sales come online. So it's a much easier problem when you're online first. But if the tech is better, if the tech is good, and let's say if you get all the 85 locations, the sales, real-time sales of every SKU at each location, right? Then you can very easily identify which SKU needs to be sent where. So this is what we do actually at our end for the 15 that we have. And our throughput of, say that, apart from the product, I think the other reason is the management of inventory. Uh, I think eventually it boils down to how good or strong the algorithm is. If you can crack that, then I definitely think that this problem would be very easy to solve, because um, whether it's 85 stores or let's say 150, I think the problem statement is just going to increase with the operational with the increase in stores. So the only solution would be to just have a very strong tech or algorithm.
And the tech, Aditya, you're saying specifically in terms of being able to predict which store to place what, right? The demand forecasting at a store level, basis, location, or local preferences or something like that, right?
Right. So I think, see, the one thing which is very clear is that you will never be able to estimate your demand accurately. That you're always going to be wrong, right? Like maybe you're never going to be 100 on 100. Like you will either be 90 or 110.
Right.
So I think that acceptance that yes, you'll never be able to accurately estimate the demand, is like that acceptance has to be there. And second, after you know the issue is what you do is the key.
Right.
Let's say that I know that there's a problem, right? Now, what do I do after that is, I think, more important to me than anything else, because brands
True.
know that this inventory is not selling, right? But they can't take it anywhere else. So how fast you move the inventory in and out of the store, that becomes very important now. So we do it very often. It's primarily for this, because the store rents are high, so I want to optimize the throughput at the store, because it's much cheaper for me to store it at the warehouse than the store, right?
Correct,
I would rather just do that here.
So you just recall the inventory or just send it to the appropriate store. And then after that, you capture that in your algorithm so that next time when you are sort of sending inventory to the store, that you don't repeat the same mistake, right?
Yes, you're right.
Got it. Very nice. Great. Any more questions? Or if Shashank, you wanted to add something, happy to.
Correct.
Not much experience there, but yeah, I mean, we are currently live in MBOs, right?
Right.
So it's even more challenging in case of MBOs, because you technically don't either own the software there or the billing or the staff, right? So it becomes even more challenging for us to predict, because your reports come after a month.
Right.
So I mean that we still haven't cracked the solution for it, and we only have to rely on the MBO store operator to inform us in advance in case there is a problem with the inventory or there is a replenishment which is quickly needed.
If I can just add over here, so we actually we have our B2B as well, where we are also working with MBOs. So we are present around at like 400 MBOs across Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. But our issue primarily is lying with our retail stores only. The MBOs, these guys actually, they make sure they have their stock because they don't want to miss out on their sales. So that has been helpful for us. But in case of our own, like the company-owned EBOs, that's where we were facing this problem.
Which company are you from, Rashmi, if you don't mind me asking?
We're from White House Apparel, so it's a menswear brand based in Hyderabad.
No, but the good news, if the problem is in your own store, then you have much better control and visibility. So I think if you can take some of stuff that Aditya also mentioned to you in terms of the tech part, right? That would be a good a good way to solve this problem, right? Using data, using tech, and the key is to move quickly, right? That's what the king is. You realize the problem, fix it immediately, right? So excellent, great. Any other questions? Any more questions we'd like to take? Great. I think we're at the end of the session. I would like to thank Shashank and Aditya for taking the time. Really appreciate. Amazing insights, guys. And no wonder you guys are at the top of your fields. So really appreciate the insights you shared with the audience, and look forward to more such discussions in the future. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ajay, for having us. Good interaction. I mean, we should keep doing this, even otherwise also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, Aditya, we didn't catch you. We lost you there.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Great. Okay.
Yeah,
so
no, I'm saying that I completely agree with Shashank. Irrespective of whether we do it on Zoom or
we will. Supply Chain Titans has started, and you guys are the inaugural members. Yeah. So we will do a reunion again. So great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
So much,
Thank you, audience, for participating as well. So, and we'll see you at next month's session of Supply Chain Titans. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
बेंगलोर में चाहिए तो में चाहिए या दिल्ली में चाहिए सबका रेट